update on the fall equinox, or spring equinox, depending on what part of the Earth you are in, north or south. But in any situation, a seasonal transition is upon us, and the sun is getting ready to cross from one side of heaven to the other side of heaven across the celestial equator. So I've been doing a couple different sundial methods and I guess pictures of the sun for this upcoming seasonal transition, and like I said, if I didn't say, today I guess was the 17th of the 9th Gregorian month in the year 2020, but this is just a refresher of the patterns that we see when we collect sundial data over the course of a year. You will see these three patterns. You will see these two arcs on the longest and shortest days of the year, and then the pattern kind of straightens out and it kind of moves this direction, and the compass is here north and south. So the longest day of the year, the sun was doing this, but then it comes really close to this line. Somewhere around this line is the day of the seasonal transition. So anyway, the important thing to notice is if I were to draw a straight line between this mark and this mark, you will notice how all these other marks are going to be below that straight line. So if I connect the line again from this mark to this mark, you can see that there's still curve in the line because all these points are below the line. So that's what I saw today. I didn't get much data. I only got from like 10:30 a.m. to I think like maybe 3, not even. So it's good when you do the straight line method. It's very important to get a mark as early in the morning as possible and as late in the evening as possible, and then one right around solar noon, which is probably typically somewhere around 1 or 1:30. But it can become really hard to see the arc in the data if you're taking a short spread of data when you get really close to this seasonal transition when you're looking for the straight line. So it was a challenging day. I had overcast skies and barely any sunlight, hardly any shadow, but I was able to get some data, and it seems like enough data to show that the points are still, some of them are below the line, so they're not all right on the line yet. If I were to collect, if I were able to collect more data in the evening and more points in the morning, you would have probably seen a more substantial hook. And I'm guessing these marks would be almost like entirely off the line. But because I was only able to collect from 10:30 to like 2:30. They look kind of close, but nonetheless, you can tell they're still kind of lower, and again, that's what we see. My computer doesn't freeze. That's what we see. As we're heading from the longest day of the year and getting close to the straight line, all these other data points will be below. When I connect the earliest point to the latest point of the day, all these other marks are still below the line. So it looks like the seasonal transition is getting very close, but it doesn't appear to have happened yet. So now going on to the pictures of the sun. Yeah, and there are a lot of pictures in this file, so I guess it can be kind of slow. Here we go. So things were starting to get really congested. Essentially, I started taking pictures this past spring for the spring equinox, and these 3 dots are Orion's belt. And I just took pictures of Orion at night when it was floating through the sky, and so I took a picture, it was here, and then it was here, and it was here, and it was here. And the point of that was to try and plot the celestial equator. And here's a snapshot from Stellarium, this blue picture. You can see Orion's belt, and when you turn the grid lines on, this blue line is grid line 0, which is supposed to be the celestial equator, and it's right above that top star, Orion's belt. So it's kind of approximately what we're looking at. Another nice thing I'm experimenting with this method and I kind of like about this method, even if it's like a very overcast sky and you can hardly see, like maybe you can't even see shadows, but you can see the sun up through these kind of foggy clouds, but you just can't see a shadow. Well, that doesn't hurt this method. Like, it was very challenging to see shadows today, but that didn't stop me from snapping a picture of the sun at 3:45 today. I just had to experiment with, I created myself a special little tool, solar filter tool, that I can kind of adjust depending on how much cloud cover there is. But so anyway, so that's nice. That's one nice thing about this method, is you can get a good picture of the sun, and you can get it quickly, and compared to the celestial equator or 2 points at different times of the year, you don't necessarily have to collect data all day, like I do for the straight line method. Like, I can just take one picture and that's enough to compare the proximity of where the sun is to that celestial equator. It's a work in progress though, but it's a pretty interesting, I think it's a pretty close approximation. I'll be refining it, but so anyway, the interesting things to note about this is, like I said, today is the 17th, and it's 3:45. Yeah, I took this at 3:45. The interesting thing is though, so I took one more picture, and that's what this yellow line is. Like, I'm going to drag this, it was too congested, so I took this picture away, but just to show you, you see the sun in the lower right corner of that picture, so I'm just going to drag that into place, and let it go, and so you can see when I drop that picture on, it runs right through that yellow line. So I just put that yellow line there as a reference. I'll move that back now, so you could see, the path of the sun with respect to this cluster of other data that I collected. Oh, now I didn't realize. I guess I have covered. I think I had a date coming straight down the page. This really bright green one was the 19th, I believe. And then you see this one right here is on the 20th, and then right here was the 22nd of March. So you can see that the sun is getting very close. Today it was very close in proximity to the celestial equator, to where it was on the 22nd. I think tomorrow it'll actually be a little bit beyond. Or maybe it'll be right on. It'll be interesting to see if it's right on the path. I tend to think it's actually going to jump. It seems to have been jumping about half a diameter a day. So I think like I said, I think maybe it'll be actually a little closer. So all this to say, I'll be trying the straight line method again tomorrow, and I'll be taking more pictures again tomorrow, and I'll be trying to snap a picture when the sun is in this approximate location, which is approximately 3:45, and we shall see. But according to my data, I forget, but I think the seasonal transition either occurred on the first day. I got it somewhere. According to my data, I guess I was projecting that the day the sign occurred was on the 20th, and then the 21st would have been, the day following that would have been the first day of spring. It's a long story. I'll have to kind of discuss that more in the summary video I put together, but just as reference, so what did I say? So that means on the 20th, that's the day we want to pay attention to. So the 20th is right here, right there. So I would say it would be interesting to see if the sun has made it all the way, full circle. This is an alignment. This is a portal or a gate location. If you pay attention to, I guess, how Enoch, the book of Enoch 1, the luminary section, describes the portals of heaven. I made this as a picture just to kind of drag over to kind of show what Enoch was talking about, but essentially, this is, I think, what Enoch is talking about when he talks about portals of heaven. And there is, right at the middle between portals 3 and 4 is where the celestial equator is. So it's if you think there's any value to Enoch, then it's interesting to note that for the sun is about to return to a exact portal position that it was in, half a year ago. So it's interesting to see the sundials and to count the days that have gone by, but I just want to put emphasis on that again, like the sun is returning to a specific portal position, and I think it's gonna be beyond, and we can count the days in between these dates, and it's just interesting. If you're trying to make sense of the 364 versus 365 and all that good stuff, solar months, or even just equal seasons in general, because modern science is claiming the seasons are not equal. And if you Google it, last time I Googled it, Google was saying, or timeanddate.com appeared to be saying the equinox was not supposed to occur until the 22nd. And that's because modern science is saying the seasons aren't equal, which I don't think I agree with. I'm not convinced about that right now. So I mean, if I keep collecting this data, I'll bet by the time the 22nd rolls around, the straight line method is going to be, the arc pattern is going to be flipped the other way, and I'll bet these pictures of the sun will be like down here, clearly past the celestial equator and not like bisected and nowhere near the position of where the sun was for the theoretical spring equinox. So anyway, that's kind of just food for thought. That's where I am at this point. I'm definitely expecting interesting things in the next day or two. So stay tuned, and shalom, and may Allah bless as you continually seek out His truth in love with a pure heart.